Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from Passionate Reds, only on All for United.
All right.
Welcome back, guys. Here we go. Eric Ten Hag, an announcement from Fabrizio Romano. No official announcement yet from Man United, but it's a pretty done deal, I think, now. Ajax and Man United going through discussions about a £2 million buyout clause for Eric Ten Hag. So the announcement will be, if not today or tomorrow, he said, possibly the day after. So we're looking at possibly after the Liverpool game. But I've got a great panel here of guys who are going to give me the initial reaction and expectations for Ten Hag. And we'll kick off with Stu. So Stu, what's your thoughts on the announcement?
Yeah, I think it was the worst kept secret in football, wasn't it? Let's be honest. And he was the one that I championed actually over Pochettino. I could see reasons for and against with Pochettino, but for me, Ten Hag was what I thought the right fit, or what I think is going to be the right fit for the club moving forward. What I like about him is he's quite fluid, and he's willing to mix it up a bit, which is needed in modern day football. I mean, he'll go so far as to go back to a 4-4-2 if necessary to win a game of football, and that to me is bold, because nobody likes a 4-4-2 in the modern game. It's got to be a 12, fucking 18, 20 system, hasn't it? It's all bollocks, really. I grew up on a 4-4-2. It's a meat and two veg system, but it's a very effective system when you've got the right players. But a 4-2-3-1, a 4-3-3, and a 4-4-2, it allows you to be that fluid. And I think if you look at his past record, he's had at Utrecht, he employed a 4-4-2 on many occasions. Under Pep, he was doing the fluid 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, playing the false 10, so a false 9. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what kind of formation he adapts and how fluid he wants to be. One thing that the current squad are going to get is a hell of a shock with his pressing. You know, he's quite methodical. I think he's quite methodical build-up play. So he doesn't steam into the press, although the press isn't all about steaming in anyway. It's about where you position yourself at any given time on the pitch. That's what a press is. It's not 100 miles an hour all the time. But I think he's quite methodical in his ball retention. He likes players to take a risk now and again, but, do the simple things where you need to do the simple things. It's all about progression up the pitch, which is what we're not seeing. We're not seeing any fluidity through progression up the pitch. And I think he'll bring that to us. What he needs to do, though, is, and it's going to be very, very difficult, but I think, the board and himself, and I would imagine he's had these conversations already, and he needs to remove 6 or 7 players out of the equation. People are saying he needs to remove 14. It's never going to happen. You just can't afford to do that. However, what he will do, I agree with Logan. I think over the next 3 years, that's where the clear out will go. I think you're absolutely right, Logan, on that one. But what he will do, and he has got a real reputation for his youth development and producing youth players. He's also got a history of taking certain players who failed at certain clubs and reinventing them. Sebastian Heller being one of them, and Tadic being another. David Klaassen is another one who had a poor Everton career and has reignited himself again. So I think there's more to get excited about than there is to kind of worry. I can't believe what I was seeing on Twitter yesterday when Ajax lost the cup. I mean, for fuck's sake, get a life. I mean, come on. Anyone can lose a game of football. It just is what it is. And PSV are a very good side. They are a very good side. If we can get 1 or 2 additions, and I'd like to see some young, hungry players now rather than just names. I think that, us buying names to sell shirts, we've got to remove that out of the equation. And I think some young, hungry players is what we need. But he's got to mix those young, hungry players he'll likely to bring from Ajax with a couple of good, experienced players from the Premier League, because you need to complement, and it's all about squad balance, as I've said before, but experience will be key. So if he brings in Timbers, the centre half maybe, I know that their defensive midfielder, I can't quite pronounce his name, so I'm not going to even bother trying. It looks like he's going to Munich, so I would suggest Calvin Phillips would be a really good alternative just to hold the play. But we're going to need a striker. We're going to need a top-end striker, and maybe a left back. I'm not so sure on the right back. I don't think so. I think with Wan-Bissaka under a new manager who potentially won't ask him to foray forward all the time and do his defensive duties first, it might be you might see a different type of Wan-Bissaka next season. Expectations for next season, just dampen them. Don't worry about it. Let's let him get 12 months. Let's let him get a season under his belt. And then in 18 months' time, let's start judging him. Because if we start judging him immediately, if the fans start looking at it and saying, right, well, I want this, this, and this, and this in 18 months' time, and it doesn't work, you're just back to square one, aren't you? You're just back to ridiculing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer type things. So expectations need to be lowered completely. Let him get used to a new country. I agree that if he brings in somebody like Steve McLaren, by the way, who is a revered coach, let's not forget that. Forget his managerial issues. He is a revered coach. We were managed back in the late 70s by Dave Sexton. Wasn't a great manager, but a revered coach, a brilliant coach. He just couldn't turn it into management. And Steve McLaren's the same. So if he brings in somebody like McLaren who knows the club, who knows English football, knows Dutch football, knows the Dutch way of doing things as well as the English way of doing things and the Manchester United way of doing things, that'll be absolutely brilliant for us. I understand he's looking to bring his number 2 in and potentially a fourth coach, whoever that may be, Robin van Persie, or I'd rather get somebody like Jaap Stammen personally over Van Persie. I don't know too much about Van Persie's coaching career, but look, I don't get excited. The lads will tell you, John will tell you for sure. I don't get excited because unfortunately I've seen it all before. This is another peg in the soap opera that is Manchester United. But I think for the first time in 10 years, we seem to have a philosophy, a good philosophy, and a blueprint of moving forward. And I really believe that if we get it right, and if Ten Hag is given the opportunity, he will bring us back. But it's going to take a few years yet to get it right. So my message to everyone out there is, love me or hate me, I don't really care. But listen to me. Just give the guy time. Don't be on Twitter fucking whinging and moaning. Get behind him. Give him the time. And I think he'll progress us.
No, I agree, Stu. It was a good roundup, really. I think he definitely does need time, doesn't he? And I think as fans, I think it's more of a reset for us as fans as well as it is for the club and the management as well, isn't it? Michael, what are your initial reactions? Are you happy? Happy? Or
all right? Is he listening on?
Yeah.
Is that my
I could go. Yeah,
sure.
With Ten Hag, I'm actually very happy. I mean, I wrote an article in October when Ole originally got sacked that Ten Hag was my number one target that I wanted. I think I put him and Graham Potter because I was buying into the Brighton things back then. But Ten Hag was my number one target. I wrote about him. I studied his tactics since the initial UCL run that they did about 3 years ago when he made the semifinals. And I saw how he kind of adjusted that team to the modern one because I also watched him in Champions League this year. And I saw the differences like in the tactics, which made me very happy. It showed that he's very flexible with his tactics, like Stu said. One thing I always said was like, this guy also coached at Bayern Munich. He coached like the youth at Bayern Munich, and they're the most efficient team in like world football. That's what they're known for. And so you can mix the things that he learned there with the things that he learned at Ajax, which is the total football, the Johan Cruyff way, the beautiful football, positional play. So I kind of like that he has the mix of both. I saw articles and like deep insights on like how he presses like a Jurgen Klopp team, but then he'll play the possession-based team like a Pep Guardiola. And those are known as the two greatest managers in the world right now, which is nice to see. And then, yeah, obviously, like Stu said yesterday, I actually watched the full Ajax PSV game. I wanted to see it. I like both teams. And like Stu said, it's a game of football. PSV are a very strong team. They had just made the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League. They went toe-to-toe with Leicester, who is a top 10 Premier League team, and they outplayed them. That Cody Gakpo guy is a really good player, and I know Ajax were missing some key players like Anthony at right wing. So it was a game that just happened, and Ajax had like two goals that were ruled out for offside. So and on any other day they probably win that game. They hit the crossbar a couple of times, so it's just unlucky. So yeah, I don't like that the fans already like kind of like some sections of Twitter will be like, oh, he's a bottler. Even though he won that competition twice already, he won Ajax their first Eredivisie in like 8 years. So he kind of put that club back on the map, which is nice to see, which kind of shows that he could do the rebuild. He also took his previous club, FC Twente, to the Europa League. So that shows that he could he doesn't only do it at Ajax, he did it at another club, which is nice to see. And I like to say for rebuild, obviously this is like our 5th rebuild in like a decade now. So hopefully this is the one that we get right. And I like to say don't cheat the process. United have tried to cheat the rebuild process over the years by just throwing money at the problem, thinking that it'll solve everything, but it hasn't, because they just bought players that didn't fit the club, that weren't the right profile. So what I hope with Ten Hag is why I was glad that he demanded that he wants like kind of control in terms of final decision on who the United bring in. I hope that he buys the right profiles. So if we buy someone that, if United are linked with like some big no player, but Ten Hag wants someone else that he thinks will fit the team better, go for someone else. Sometimes the popular player isn't the right answer. So I just hope that he chooses the right profiles. And another reason why I was glad is like, because there's gonna be life after Ten Hag, right? We'll see he like manages 5-6 years, at minimum at Man United. I just hope now that United hires someone that he could lay the ground print at the very least for the next manager. Because you saw Man City, they've hired the same cycle of managers over the last decade with Mancini, Pellegrini, Pep. It's kind of the same style of football. Liverpool after Jurgen Klopp will probably continue the Gegenpress way with like a Nagelsmann or something. And hopefully Man United after Ten Hag continue this JDP, the positional play manager, and hopefully that we're just successful for years to come. And as for my expectations for him next year, I already tempered my expectations for next year. I just hope I would like top 4 just because I love Champions League football, so that would be nice. And I also think that Arsenal, if they miss out on UCL football, will kind of decline next year because their whole process was built on them getting UCL football this year. So they'll kind of take a step back. I'm only fearful of Spurs because Antonio Conte is such a great manager. And if he gets backed properly by Spurs, if he gets like a wing backs and stuff like that, he'll make a real push for it. So Ten Hag hopefully, or he'll get a UCL through top 4. Or if we're in the Europa League, I expect to win the Europa League because we're Manchester United. I expect to win that competition no matter who's in it, unless like a big team from UCL drops into it. But if not, I expect to win that. But most importantly, next year, I just want to see a philosophy and still I kind of want to follow like the Jurgen Klopp way at Liverpool his first year. He kind of saw what he wanted to do. That's the most important thing. I want to see what Ten Hag wants to do. I want to see the team pressing. I want our intensity to be up. When we go play the Man Cities or the Liverpools, even if we lose, I want to see that we went toe-to-toe with them in terms of intensity, that we didn't back down to them as we have in previous years. So that would be nice to see. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on him.
No, you got some fans there, Michael, as well. So that's good to see from Logan there. So no, it's good assessment. I think what was interesting as well, Fabrizio mentioned on one of his tweets a day or two ago that Ten Hag is this formidable character and he wants control, which rightly he should have control of the club and the ins and outs. But he said he wants to work with the board as well. He wants to discuss players that he wants to bring in. He wants it to be a collaboration. He doesn't want to be this kind of dictator, which is positive as well. He doesn't want to kind of oust the board to a degree. He wants them to work with him. I'm sure he'll have a massive say and a final say on that. But I thought that was quite encouraging as well, that he was showing that he wanted to collaborate as well as anything else. But he just wants to be a big part of obviously having that final say on transfers. Ahmed, nice to see you, man. So what are your thoughts on kind of Ten Hag and just more kind of moving on to other areas of the topic? Players he's going to keep, players he's going to let go, players he's going to bring in next season. What are your thoughts on that?
Realistically, my opinion on this is that ultimately it was going to be a tough choice between Pochettino and Ten Hag, who would be the ideal candidate to take Manchester United forward. I did say back in the time when Oli had been sacked and there was the announcement that Ranić had come in, that Ten Hag for me is a favourable option because of his potential peak. He could still be, he's still 50, he's not a spring chicken, but he's got a peak yet to him in his managerial ability, his development with young players, the progressive system he plays, how confident he can be in his players if they give him 100%, and also the fact that he's a very brash character. There's just things about him that for me sold me over Pochettino, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to Poch in the past, and he's a good man. He's a very humble manager, a great tactician, but I just could not. And okay, great, it's your ambition to manage United, but I just felt like something about Ten Hag drew me to him when it came to deciding between the two. It's a very simplistic answer, but if I'm being realistic, I don't want to tempt fate with a lot of what United fans are hoping for from him. I'm agreeing with Stu here, and I tend to a lot nowadays. But yes, you've got to give the man time. You've got to be patient with him, because he's not going to work miracles in a day, and Rome wasn't built in a day. So with that, I would like to see the man given an opportunity to let him build the club in his image and the team in his image. Let him develop the youngsters from within, because that academy is blossoming right now through to the Youth Cup final. And he's been known to bring in players like the unpronounceable one for Stu, which is Gravenberg, Jurgen Timber, Nussein Mazraoui as well, and also developing, also-ran players who struggled in leagues such as Sebastian Haller. It's a proving ground, the Eredivisie, for great talent, and as we've discovered, we brought Donny van der Beek. Yes, it hasn't worked at the moment, but could be a renaissance for him next season. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of your other request, in terms of the players that I want to see in the club and who should be playing underneath him, I mean, the obvious ones to sound out are the ones who are looking to be leaving already. So you shouldn't have to worry about those in the first instance. Pogba, Mata, Matic, and Lingard to begin with. There's those who are prospectually thinking about moving on because of the status of the club, or maybe because they're not happy with the way things are going. So Eric Bailly's, for example, maybe your Dean Henderson's, Ronaldo is a shout. And knowing Ten Hag's style of play, will he suit it? I doubt it, because obviously you need to cater to Ronaldo's strengths if you're going to want to win with him in your team. So there's some interesting scenarios there as well. I've talked about this before on a show, and I'm going to bring it up again. If we're going to really progress forward, I want to see players come in who will play for the shirt and will give 110%, go to the very end of games rather than surrender like they did in the derby back in early in the year. And I want to also see those those not so well known talents that get a crack at it. Maybe even just to fill up a role in the squad, because there'll be days where we've been relying on the likes of Cavani and Varane, for example, to come into the team to save our bacon. And whenever we've needed them, they're not there because of injuries or various other matters of concern. So I want to see players come in motivated to play for the manager, motivated to play football in the first place, to actually earn the money that they're getting, because they just don't look like, and a lot of these players just don't look like they're really there to, play football. They're there to make a buck and try and earn something from it for themselves and not so much for the team. Saturday, it was a little bit about it because we were struggling against Norwich. We shouldn't really be struggling against bottom of the league teams in the first place. So genuinely, my excitement for next season is tempered a little bit by obviously this season and how close we are to the Champions League. But I'd rather first get over this season and then focus on what Ten Hag will do, because ultimately the result of this season will determine what the approach will be heading into next season. And you never know. If it is Champions League, so be it. If it's Europa League, I'd be excited to see who gets the opportunity to flourish in those games. And, if it is as far down as Conference League, I'm not wishing it, obviously. But if it is that far down, then play the kids, because that's their chance to shine. That's their opportunity to show the manager who can really take the ball by the horns and take the opportunity of potentially becoming a regular first-team player. But I'm excited by the appointment. I'm excited by who could be the key men in the future of Manchester United. And I'm excited to see as well what may come from, the academy, because that's where really we should focus on for the next few years or so.
No, yeah, I agree. The academy's one of the shining lights, I think, this season, isn't it, really? And something that I think Erik Ten Hag's got a great pedigree in developing, isn't he? John, what are your thoughts? What are your kind of expectations for? Hiya, Stu.
Just before, I'm going to have to shoot. Sorry, guys. Just
Yeah,
before
we've all
John
got to say
starts,
bye.
I didn't want
Yeah.
to.
No
So
worries.
good to see you all again, lads. I'll see you soon. Okay, sorry, John.
Same
Thank
here.
you.
That's all right. Bye, Stu.
Good night.
Same here,
Bye-bye.
gentlemen. A pleasure. But thanks for having me, and I hope to speak to you again soon.
Are you going to? Cheers, mate. All right, okay. And then there was 3. Right, John, over to you. What are your expectations for Ten Hag next season? Obviously, we've got to be fairly realistic with, what is a massive job for any manager coming in with the current state of affairs this season. So, what are your expectations for Ten Hag and Man United next season?
Well, I don't think you can expect too much next season. I think the only real thing that us as fans should be requiring is, see some his style of football come to fruition a little bit, so that we can have an idea. Like, even if we don't achieve what we want to achieve, at least we can see, right, well, we can see what he's trying to do, but it'll take time to get the right players to play. It's the making a live students about the press and all that. I don't think the current squad is good enough to play that down, so it'll take time to evolve. The other factor is this season, we don't know whether we'll get into Europe or not, or even if, even though it's unlikely, we still might get in the Champions League, for example. It's unlikely, but it just depends on what competition we're in, whether in Europe, what European competition we might be in. I don't expect very much from next season in terms of like trophies or anything like that. But I think there'll be an indication this summer in terms of like incomings, outgoings, that kind of thing. What you'll begin to see, obviously, taken for granted, players like Pogba, Lingard and Cavani will obviously go. But it wouldn't surprise me if you see a player who you don't expect to leave at this moment might go potentially. There might be, you might think, right, De Gea doesn't suit my style. He might think Maguire doesn't suit my style. He might get rid of Ronaldo, let's say. It just depends on what decisions he's allowed to make. Obviously, we touched upon that. I think it was David Owens who said the other day, I don't think he wants to control everything, but in terms of incomings, I think he wants to work with the board and maybe Rangnick as someone to identify targets which suit his style. And if anyone says no, then they'll look for someone who they can agree on, that kind of thing. I'd take, for example, like a Liverpool example, many years ago, Klopp wanted Brandt, for example, because he worked with him at Dortmund. But someone in the recruitment side of Liverpool said, well, yeah, he's a good player, but actually this player at Rome, Mo Salah, might be more suited to your style, and you could see, and then looking back now, you think, well, that was clearly the right decision. What you might also see long term is maybe selling a valuable asset. Again, like Liverpool, they sold Coutinho, they used that money to buy Van Dijk and Alisson, which were vital to him building his team. He could sell a valuable asset, maybe not straight away, but maybe someone like Rashford, or maybe like a Ronaldo or even a De Gea, players like that, in order to bring other players in. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think this summer will be an indication in terms of like the signings. We might start to make more intelligent signings, hopefully as a club, and we'll then hopefully begin to see an implementation of style which we can build upon over the next 2 to 3 years, which will hopefully lead us to compete in maybe the leagues within 3 to 4 years, hopefully with a bit of luck, but it will take time. And it's important to stress also that we've had some embarrassing results this season. Don't be surprised. In fact, you should probably expect maybe next season you might still experience a few bad results. You might go to Wolves and lose 2-0. for example, you just got to be patient. So as you've seen an idea come into fruition, even though it'll take time for it to work properly, I think that's the least I expect next season. I'm not going to say I think we should get top four. I'm not going to say we should win a trophy. I just want to see a vision where we can say, right, we can see this getting together as long as he gets the right players in.
Yeah, and I think they're just Andrew saying that he just wants to see somebody who comes in and stakes his claim, like you've said there, John, really, as well, and has a little bit of control. And as I think that's the important thing, isn't it? Really, that we see somebody coming in and grabbing this team by the scruff of the neck. I mean, I'll come back to you in a minute, John. But Michael, just in terms of the UEFA Champions League, obviously that's something you are quite passionate about as well. You mentioned that on previous shows. If we don't get top four, obviously that's a massive, sort of transfer budget slash for Man United. Will he dip into the youth team? Do you think that'll be something that Ten Hag will be forced to do next season? And who do you think he'll turn towards?
I mean, I think this whole budget talk is kind of like United trying to show like that they're not they don't have a lot of money, even though previous history has shown that when United don't make Champions League, that's their most expensive transfer windows. So I think Ten Hag will get a war chest no matter what. I think around 150 to 200 million in the summer, especially since so many players are going to be leaving. So I think that will have some extra funds available to him. But I would also like to see some youth like involved in terms of like the setup next year, like Alejandro Garnacho. That'd be a name I like. Alvaro Fernandez. Hopefully Hannibal will finally get his chance next year. I was hoping to see some of him late in this season, but since United are in a top four race, he doesn't have many minutes available to him. So I would like to see I expect some of the youth to kind of fill in the spots that some players are leaving behind, especially Jimmy Garner's coming back from Nottingham Forest next year. I think he'll be the most likely out of the youth to get some minutes. But yeah, if we don't get champions next year, I think then it would most likely be Europa League, and then I think Ten Hag would have to go all in on that. But in the group stages, if we do make Europa League, I would like Ten Hag to like use the youth, kind of like how similarly Ole played like that full youth game against Astana in that year we made the Europa League, something like that. That would be nice if we have like an easy opponent. So yeah, but I don't think I think financially he'll have enough money available to him to get like most of his targets.
Right, yeah, thanks for that, Michael. John, a couple of questions you might want to answer from the panel, if that's all right. First of all, Andrew says, which players do you want out of the door? I kind of throw that to you, John, first, and then over to Michael.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, obviously some players will go. There's some of which I don't think will suit the style anyway. Your Pogba's, your Cavani's, your and your Lingards, for example. I don't think Bay will stay personally. I think he might go. Phil Jones, obviously. Matic is already confirmed to be going as well. I just think some players like that, but we talk about this summer, there might be players he looks to replace, not necessarily now, but in a year or two, potentially. You could potentially see Maguire at 29 potentially being phased out, potentially. Maybe even if things don't work out injury-wise for him, maybe like a Varane, maybe, who knows? I think Ronaldo will obviously go at some point. Obviously Ronaldo is obviously a brilliant goal scorer, but aside from his goal scoring, I don't think he really provides much from the team. I think Ten Hag will probably be someone who wants a little bit more from his striker than just purely goals, as brilliant as Ronaldo is at it. And you could, it's difficult to say because there might be some players I mentioned who Ten Hag might think, actually, I can get something out of them potentially. I think some of the fullbacks will go.
Pogba's a done deal there, John. Do you think Pogba's a done deal, especially after his antics the other day, or do you think Ten Hag will try and coax him round?
Do I think he'll want to keep Pogba, or
Do you think that'll be something he'll think of doing?
Well, I don't think Pogba will stay, so I think he's. I'm just trying to think of players who will actually remain potentially after coming on, guaranteed to go at this moment. But I do think, also some of the full backs, will he.
Yeah.
Maybe a Wan-Bissaka or a Delo might go, and possibly even a Telles. I think he will eventually look for better full-backs personally, but again, that might not be straight away. He'll bring in a centre, but I personally think we will get Timber from Ajax. He's obviously been linked with him, he's worked with him. I can see us potentially doing that deal this summer potentially, and also we'll probably get a CDM, whoever that may be, and I can see us getting a striker as well. I think we've obviously been with Nunez, but whether it'll suit the style and that, who knows. But I think those are kind of things we'll look to do this summer.
No, thanks, John. Michael, just another question to you. What do you think happens with the captaincy? Do you think that's something that Ten Hag will address when he comes straight on board? Do you think Maguire keeps it?
I do think
from Eric Cantona, by the way, the actual Eric Cantona, I believe. Yeah.
Give it to him.
Yeah.
I do think it'll change. I think there was a report earlier today from Samuel Luckhurst that said that Ten Hag might look to get rid of it. I think the pressure has kind of gotten to Maguire a little bit in terms of the captaincy. I do think he'll lose it next year. Who will get it is a bigger question. I think the odds-on favorite will probably be Bruno Fernandes. He just got the new contract and all that kind of stuff. He's kind of been a vocal leader in the locker room. He's one of the bigger personalities in the locker room, so I think he might get it. Obviously, De Gea might get it since he's the longest tenured player at the club. And if Ronaldo says he might get it because he has experience captaining obviously Portugal for I think almost a decade now. So I think it would be something like that. But I do think Maguire loses it. Whether he loses his starting spot, that's another question for another day. But I do think he loses the captaincy.
Well, we might have that question next, actually, because the next question is from Jarvis. Which players of the current squad do you think Ten Hag will likely play a massive role next season? I think Bruno's got to definitely be a player that plays a pivotal role in Ten Hag's system, isn't it? I think that's somebody he will want to obviously make a team around. Is there anybody else you think will be strong candidates other than possibly David De Gea that will play a massive role in the team?
Van de Beek.
Van de Beek, yeah. It's his birthday today, I believe, as well. So that's a good birthday present.
I do think Van de Beek, I do actually think for his energy now, I think Fred will probably have a role as well, because he does offer something different a bit. I know he's not the most technically gifted, but he is someone who'll work for you. And I think in the 8 to 8 box role, you have seen an improvement in him. So maybe if you get like a CDM in or something, that could potentially be a play for Riches. I can possibly see Tomini having a role as well, whether that be starting most games or being a substitute maybe. I can see that. And I think Sancho as well will, because he's intelligent. He's one of the few players that's used to the continental style, the much more technical side of the game. So I can see him having a role as well. So those are the players I personally think will have a role in the team.
Brilliant, Michael. Did you agree with John on that one? Or was anybody else you'd think are going to play a massive part in the current squad next season for a Ten Hag?
Yeah, I mean, looking at what I've seen from Ajax in terms of tactical, I'd say Sancho, obviously, since he's the big signing last summer, he's one of the most. He's kind of the future for United right now in terms of the future, because he's so young and stuff. So I kind of see him doing the Tadic role. They're very similar players, kind of not the quickest, but very good with their feet, very good at interchange and link up play. I do agree with the Fred part. I think any manager loves Fred because of his energy, and he'll give it 99% for 90 minutes, no matter what. He's probably in terms of our squad, he's probably the only player that does that very well. Who else? When I look at it, I think the defense is going to be the biggest change, because Ten Hag will I know Ole tried to do the play out the back style, but he didn't get the right profiles for that, in my opinion. I do think Ten Hag's going to put a big emphasis on that. So looking at our center backs, maybe a Lindelof, because I think in terms of like he's probably the most comfortable on the ball in terms of our center backs. But I don't know if Ten Hag will like him. Varane's going to be the big question because I don't think he's that good with his feet personally. I think that's probably his biggest weakness. But I could also see Ten Hag, like for his experience aspect, might keep him and play someone that's much better in terms of ball playing capabilities next to him. And the fullbacks, which is the biggest problem at Man United because our fullbacks are terrible. The only one I see offering some kind of like help is Luke Shaw, because Ten Hag does like to have one of his fullbacks tuck in a little bit and through progressive play, and I think Luke Shaw's the best at that in the club because under Ten Hag, one of the fullbacks doesn't have to bomb up and down. I think that's Luke Shaw's biggest problem in terms of like intensity. He doesn't like to always bomb up and down sometimes. So I think under Ten Hag, he could probably play kind of like a left center back role. If you guys remember how he played under Ole the couple times they did the 3-back, where I thought that's where I think Luke Shaw's best position is actually, because he's just allowed to do like tuck in, progress the ball from deep, doesn't have to bomb up and down. He's just kind of allowed to do his thing. So I think he could play a big role as well.
No, appreciate it, Michael. I mean, just a final one. Got another question here from Logan. Three realistic signings this summer. Is that something we can even consider at this moment in time? I suppose we've still got a long way to go with Liverpool tomorrow and still top four in the kind of distant kind of future. But yeah, realistic signings this summer. Have you guys got any ideas? John, do you want to go?
Yeah, I did mention I've got a feeling that Timber from Ajax will probably go through. I think we'll sign Timber this summer. Midfield, I mean, we've been with a few. We've mentioned Rice, Chouamini. It wouldn't surprise me if we sign someone who's Premier League proven, like for a decent price, like maybe Neves or what's the name at Leicester, Tielemans, someone like that. I can potentially see us signing that kind of. I don't know which one, but maybe one of them. As for a striker, obviously we've been living with Nunez. He could be a possibility. Or there might be another striker. With I think it's Jonathan Davis, is it essentially? So I think it's impossible to say. I can see 3 signings this month. I think you can name positions. I think Timber's the only one where I'd say I can see us signing him. But where's the other positions? I think we'll sign players, but I can't necessarily say it will be that player. So I'm sure we'll get developments over the next few weeks or so.
No, Michael, what do you reckon? Realistic signings? I think John's right. It's difficult to put your finger on a couple this summer because it's more like John said there. It's more just positions, isn't it? That we're kind of looking for. If anything, cover as well, aren't we? We're pretty lacking in some areas where we've got cover. But what do you reckon? Realistic signings this summer for Ten Hag?
I do agree with the Timber. I do agree with the Timber point. I think he'll be the one Ajax player that Ten Hag will bring over. Because I think he's cheap and he's versatile, so he can. I think if we do sign him, I don't think he'll even play center back. I think he'll play right back because I think he's too short to play in the Premier League as a center back. He's only like 5'10", so I think right back would be the best position for him. I think we signed Nkunku from Leipzig. I think that will have a Ralph written all over it. I think he's also, like I said, versatile. He can play anywhere in the attack. He's kind of just he's positionless. He can play striker, right wing, left wing, cam, all that kind of stuff. And I'm gonna go bold with this one. Tchouameni is Ten Hag's number 1 target. And I think United will do whatever it takes to get Ten Hag his number 1 target. They've gotten the number 1 target for every previous manager. I think Van Gaal got his number 1 target, I believe. I know Jose got his number 1 target with Pogba. Ole got his number 1 targets most of the time. And I do think Tchouameni will become a United player because he is rumored to want a Premier League move. So I think we'll beat any offer. It's just like if he wants to come. So, yeah, I'll go with Tchouameni and Nkunku and Timber.
No, nice one. Well, yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's a good sort of line in the sand, isn't it? If he doesn't get his initial number 1 target this summer, then it's not going to get off to a great start, is it, with Ten Hag? So hopefully he gets on with the board, he gets his number 1 man, and we can have a good future with him. But it's been a bit of a short one today, guys. I appreciate your support. So we're going to end it there. But for those that have watched, thank you, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So thank you from me, Michael and John, and the rest of the guys, Stu and Ahmed, that were on earlier. So we're going to end it there and call it a day. Here we go, guys. Thank you.